In 1941, Australia found itself staring down an imminent Japanese invasion. With supply lines stretched to the breaking point, the nation was entirely dependent on weapons imported from Britain and the United States shipments that were increasingly delayed or sunk before they ever reached the coast.
And when those shipments did arrive, the weapons often failed the ultimate test.
The American Thompson submachine gun was a marvel of manufacturing, but its precision machine,
tightly fitted moving parts, were a liability in the Pacific. The moment tropical mud and grit found their way into the receiver,
the weapon jammed.
The Australian military desperately needed a locally produced alternative that could survive the jungle. There was just one massive hurdle. Australia had almost no traditional firearms manufacturing infrastructure to build it. The Pacific theater didn't need a weapon crafted to factory perfection. It demanded a weapon engineered purely for environmental survival. Enter Evelyn Owen, a young amateur with zero formal engineering training. Owen had spent his teenage years tinkering in his backyard. By 1938, he had cobbled together a working prototype using scrap metal, discarded car parts, and a scavenged .22 caliber rifle barrel. When he presented his creation to the Australian military, they dismissed it entirely. It was crude, unconventional, and miles away from the polished British designs they were waiting for. Owen nearly gave up. Right before shipping out for infantry service, he casually tossed his prototype in a burlap sugar bag and left it leaning against a garage wall. That bag was stumbled upon by his neighbor, a man named Vincent Wardell. Wardell, the manager of the massive Lysac Steelworks, examined the action and immediately recognized the mechanical logic within the gun's extreme simplicity. The military bureaucracy had thrown the solution away. It took civilian industrial leadership to recognize its value and rescue the design from obscurity. Vincent Wardell's factory, the Lysac Steelworks, usually manufactured corrugated iron and galvanized sheet metal. They had absolutely no experience making firearms, but that lack of experience became an asset. Instead of relying on slow, expensive precision milling, Lysac applied what they knew best. They adapted the gun's design for rapid sheet metal fabrication, relying on the violent stamping of industrial presses and heavy spot welding. This raw, brutal approach to manufacturing allowed the factory to churn out over 45,000 submachine guns cheaply and at a blistering pace. By treating a firearm like a piece of industrial hardware, Australia successfully bypassed its severe shortage of specialized gunsmiths. The result was the 9mm Owen Gun. It had a bizarre visual profile, characterized by an incredibly top-heavy layout that looked almost backwards compared to standard infantry weapons. That awkward vertical magazine solved one of the biggest causes of battlefield jams. By feeding cartridges from the top, the weapon used gravity to assist the internal spring, reliably forcing the rounds downward into the firing chamber, even if the spring itself was weakened by rust. Because the feed path was completely vertical, any mud, sand, or water that entered the weapon simply fell straight through the action and was pushed out of the bottom ejection port. Owen also designed an internal bulkhead system, a solid steel partition inside the receiver completely sealed the firing bolt and recoil spring away from the external cocking handle track, creating a physical barrier against outside debris. The unconventional layout even offered a unique tactical advantage. With no magazine protruding from the bottom, infantry could press completely flat on the jungle floor, maintaining a low profile while laying down sustained fire. When the military finally put it through official mud and sand trials, the results were undeniable. While the British Sten and the American Thompson choked and failed, the Owen Gun fired flawlessly. Every bizarre angle of its silhouette served a specific purpose. It was a collection of hyper-functional countermeasures designed to defeat the environment itself. The Owen Gun was rushed into the brutal, brutal, rain-soaked campaigns of New Guinea and Borneo, where the jungle terrain was often knee-deep in mud. In an environment that destroyed almost every other piece of mechanical equipment, the Owen rarely misfired. Its absolute reliability under fire earned it the deep affection of the troops, who quickly nicknamed it the Digger's Darling. But the very methods used to build the weapon so quickly carried a hidden cost.
To maintain the blistering pace of wartime production,
Lysak relied heavily on hasty hand-fitting on the assembly line, meaning the internal parts were largely non-interchangeable from one gun to the next. If a bolt or barrel broke, a soldier couldn't just swap in a spare part from another weapon without filing and modifying it.
This lack of standardization
made post-war maintenance an absolute nightmare for armorers.
The crude brute force manufacturing that got the weapons to the front line in time to win the war
ultimately doomed the Owen Gun's viability in a peacetime military.
By the 1960s,
the Australian military was actively searching for a replacement, eventually leading to the creation of the F1 submachine gun. Yet they couldn't abandon what actually worked. The F1 directly inherited the Owen's core innovations, retaining the top-mounted magazine and the simple, straight blowback action for a new generation of soldiers serving in the Vietnam War. They even applied that same spirit of wartime resourcefulness to logistics, opting to domestically manufacture the F1's magazines just to deliberately evade exorbitant licensing fees from the British. The Owen Gun's enduring design proves that radical innovation emerges directly from severe industrial limitations. It remains a testament to what is possible when engineering is stripped down to its most essential, survival-focused principles.